uwager.lv, sportsbook, and casino. Sign up today at uwager.lv, the premier online sportsbook, taking wagers since 1998. The most player-friendly lines, weekly juice specials, and a true dime line in MLB. Unique casino platforms with thousands of games. Play poker, high stakes, low stakes, or tournament play. uwager.lv, what we offer. Free same-day payouts. Customer service and wagering support, 24/7, year-round. Free monthly rebates on your action and daily casino rebates. Contests, free bets, best bonuses, and giveaways. Generous referral program. Get an 80% free play bonus on your first deposit, up to $1,000. Sign up today, and use promo code SPORTSWEB. Remember, you can't win if you don't play.
Are you an athlete or professional struggling with life or career transition? Life isn't always easy, but hope is always present. Best Hope Counseling will help you move forward. For nearly a decade, licensed marriage and family therapist Larry Baumgartner has helped clients empower change and discover solutions using a solution-focused therapy approach. Conversations will focus on what you desire to change, not just the problems that brought you into counseling. From anger to depression or other emotions, Best Hope Counseling is there for you. Contact Larry personally on his direct line at 727-946-1346. Again, 727-946-1346 for a telehealth appointment in Florida and Minnesota, or in person an appointment in Minnesota. Take time out and begin your game plan to reconnect, rebuild, and restore happiness in your life. BestHopeCounseling.com. to give you something to think about. From 97 to 08, is this team the greatest defense of all time? Look at the longevity, look at the consistency, look at the Pro Bowls, look at the Hall of Famers, and look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. You can sit there and talk about the 85 Chicago Bears all you want to. You could sit there and talk about the 2000 Ravens. You could sit there and talk about the Steel Curtain. But in that day and age of the NFL, the era, if the Bucs have a quarterback and an offense that is as good as that defense, you're talking about a multi-Super Bowl winner, and we're not even having this discussion as the greatest defense of all time. I definitely think you can make the case that this defense with Ronde Barber, with Derek Brooks, with Warren Sapp, with John Lynch, and hopefully talking to Ira Kaufman here in a couple days, Simeon Rice, that could be the greatest defense of all time. Picture that. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Evolution of Sports Talk Television here on a Monday night.
Here comes the money.
You got to love it. Only 4 days away from Bucs versus the Steelers. And I get it. It's the preseason, but I know a lot of Bucs fans out there are pumped up that we have football season. How do we start off this show, the Sports Web Live on I Love St. Pete, the Hub, Amped Up Sports, and now Bucs Life? Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. On tonight's show, we'll have the Rock Stops Here podcast zone longtime TV personality, Mr. Rock Riley, joining us here in just a couple minutes. And then at 9:30, we will have JC Allen of Pewter Report. And I want to definitely take your phone calls because there was some breaking news today from the great JC Allen of Pewter Report. He's reporting per sources that quarterback Baker Mayfield will start the first preseason game versus the Steelers in 4 days. Let's go! And then after that, Kyle Trask will then start the second game versus the Jets. So the two have been rotating first-team reps daily through the offseason and training camp. So what do you think, Bucs fans? We knew it was going to be a quarterback competition. Is this the way to handle it? 727-255 0391. It's 727-255-0391. The other number, in case you can't get through, 727-409-7528. Again, 727-409-7528. Also, the media talked to Devin White today, so we'll get his comments. And then Tristan Wirfs had some interesting stuff to talk about. And then, of course, I threw it out there already, like a steak on the table. Are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from 97 to 2008 the greatest defense of all time? You tell me. Get on the phone lines. Let's go out to our comments as we wait for Rock Riley to come on in here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. First says Roger Shue. What's going on, Roger?
Acknowledge me.
Let's go out to Roger again. Is the Greek with us tonight? Hurry this up. Bears win the NFC, and Raw is on. Getting it started there, Roger. Appreciate you.
This guy sucks.
Eric Moreno. Hey, Peter Blake. Hey, Peter. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go out to Roger again. Oh, wow. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Olga says, woohoo.
Woo!
I need to catch up with my Bucs. We got you covered. We got you catched up here because, again, Baker Mayfield is going to be your starter versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we're going to see how that's all going to work out. How do you feel about that, Bucs fans? Is that the right move to make? should they be starting Kyle Trask instead of Baker Mayfield at first? Because we've heard about, all the turnover situation, 7 turnovers to 1 interception. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I continue to go back to the comments from Todd Bowles. The most important thing for a quarterback, and just paraphrasing it, but he kind of put it out there last week, is not to turn over the ball. Now, what are those situations that this Bucs offense is putting him into? Is he taking more chances? Is he trying to have more chemistry with his wide receivers? Are the Bucs asking him to do those things? Is it necessarily a good thing not to turn over the ball? Because you get the turnovers, out of the way now, and then you don't do it during the season, right? 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. We also talked about the Hall of Fame with Ronde Barber. Congratulations to him. Which is an amazing speech. I wish I could play it, but I don't want to get copyrighted. But definitely, did you guys enjoy that? It's about time. After 6 years, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Why did it take so long? I love the fact when he went there and he was talking about it in his speech, as we're going to get on Rock Riley here in just a moment, of, what's a system corner? I continue to hear that throughout the years, the 6 years, and I pounded this table right here on the sports web. You know what I'm talking about. And said, look, the guy's got 48 interceptions, over 20 sacks. No cornerback's got that. I get it. There's 23. He's extraordinary. He's not ordinary, as he talked about in his speech. Thanking his mother, thanking his brother, saying that was the fuel that always pushed him. What is a system corner? I have no idea. I mean, it's like saying Jerry Rice is a system wide receiver. Duh. It's the West Coast offense, right? So we'll definitely get Rock Riley on here in just a moment. We'll read these comments and we'll get out to him. Zach says, Baker Mayfield time. I agree with you.
Oh, yeah.
Roger Shue says, acknowledge me. We shall.
Acknowledge me.
Christopher Cole says, evening, fellas. I know, Christopher, you're raring to go. 4 days until the preseason starts. I get it. It's preseason football, but it's football. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Let's go out to Roger Shue here in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Trask. Amen. Let's go out to Christopher O'Reilly. Fire the cannons as we shall. Let's go out to Roger again. Y'all wish you had quarterback one Justin Fields, Ben Cornett, Mayfield, Trask, Mayfield, Trask, Mayfield, Ace Ventura. Very good.
Yeah.
Christopher Cole on July 20th. The Cubs were 8.5 games back and we're going into be sellers. They went on a big run and now are a half game out. Go Cubs, go. Yes, 16-7 in that second half. You're exactly right. Since the All-Star break, Roger Shue, Cubs hottest team in Major League Baseball. Absolutely. Tristan says that Baker or Trask isn't it. Is this officially a rebuild? We will get back to that. I hope it's not a rebuild. I'm thinking it's not going to be a rebuild. They have the talent on this team, Tristan. I know how you feel about it. We'll get back to that in a moment. Let's go out to this guy right here. Longtime TV personality. Basically a legend in the business in the Tampa Bay area. And of course, does a great podcast. The Rock stops here. Mr. Rock Riley, welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. Coming back from Canton, Ohio for the Hall of Fame. How was that, my friend? Welcome to the Sports Web.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. And it's great to get back home. When you get on that tram, you're on TIA. I had Dan Weldon, who was a great NASCAR driver. He passed away in a horrific crash in Las Vegas. And he's from England and he lived in Snell Isle on St. Pete with his wife and his kids. And he said, no matter where he was in the world, when you touch down at TIA and you're on that tram going back, you feel like you're back. You're home. It's peaceful. And it was an unbelievable experience, Peter, especially the party that Ronde and the Buccaneers had. 425 people. CeeLo Green was the act. All the Buccaneer players. And he had his high school football coach. He and Tiki, they had their high school football coach his wife there. Tony Dunn. It was an unbelievable experience. And if you've never been to Canton, Ohio at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, put it on your bucket list.
Yeah, I've never been there before, and I definitely want to get there one of these days. I mean, give me some stories there and tell me how proud you were of Ronde Barber being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, you've covered him for so many years. Talk about that speech. Talk about the sights and sounds. Give me some great rock stories there at the Hall of Fame.
Well, it's really cool because the fans that show up, it's like game day for them. They wear all their gear. Now, obviously, you had the most fans from Cleveland, the Browns fans, the Dog Pound, because Joe Thomas was going in and they can just drive there. It's local. The New York Jets fans turned out. They had the most amount of fans other than Browns fans. The Buccaneers were represented by diehards. They were sitting in a couple of rows in the next section right behind the family and friends, but they were down. They were down on the stadium floor. Where they play that game, they transform it into where they have the induction the next day. I saw all of that. But what was really cool, I think, is that Ronde Barber waited so long. And he said that he was always getting, he'd run into fans. You should be in. You made that position what it was. Oh my God, you should be in. And when you keep hearing that year after year, and Ira Kaufman is the Tampa Bay media representative that makes that speech. He works all year on it. They had Brady in a video that they shot to the voters. It was incredible what he said, and oh my God. So anyway, to finally get the call and to finally be in and to put on that gold jacket. And it's funny, Peter, because he gets the gold jacket from Mike Tomlin, who is the Pittsburgh Steelers coach, but was his DB's coach, as you remember, when he was here. And so he puts the jacket on and if good, boom, a button popped off. Well, there's no time for a tailor. So for the entire next 2 days, and it was really hot there. And when you're at that party, all 425 people want a picture and want to say congratulations to him. And everybody was crowded in there. And here he is still wearing that gold jacket with the button popped off. He said he'd get it fixed. It was just really, really neat to see him and his family there. Because he really, I know it sounds cliche, and he's a great guy. He really is a super guy. I'll tell you another story. I'm standing there. There's a young girl there with a guy, and she's like, Warren Sapp came by, and he came over to me. Now, he has always intimidated me, always. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and he's like, hey, man, how you doing? How you doing, Rock? Yeah, always. I'm like, oh, my God. So he walks away out to go outside, and I said, to this young girl and the guy, said, that guy always intimidates me. His name is Warren Sapp. Now they're in their 20s, early 20s. No clue who he is. They go, he looks intimidating. And they said, how are you here? I said, well, I'm a sportscaster in Tampa Bay, sports reporter. I covered him. The girl played, it was either field hockey or soccer with Ronde's daughter. And she goes, this is my brother. It was one, and they didn't know any of the people. And you know what they told me? They only know Ronde as the dad in the neighborhood. And the girl said flat out, she goes, they are just great family people, just good people. And that is away from the limelight and everything that he did on the field. Talked to Tony Dungy for a long time. And I was telling him, I was like, Tony, all the years that I have interviewed players that you coached in Tampa Bay, every single player guy told me what they took from you. It wasn't football and X's and O's. It was how to be a man, how to do right, how to live right. And Tony was just listening to me. I said, Tony, every single one. And so, I mean, the list goes on and on. I talked to Brad Johnson for a long time. He does these trick shot videos, and he was giving us the whole behind the scenes. And then Ira was there. Hey, when you were playing the Philadelphia Eagles, what did you have that call? I'm like, Ira, this isn't it. And he starts going. He goes, you know what? Ronde had the most memorable play when we shut down the vet. Joe Jaravicius, I think, had the most important play, that catch and run in that game. So I wasn't getting into too many X's and O's at the party with these guys from 20 years ago. It was just really, really neat to see. And one last story, I know you'll love this. They bring out Shelton Quarles, who works for the Buccaneers and was a member of that Super Bowl team. He comes out with the Lombardi Trophy on the dance floor. They had a DJ, and then they had a stage set out outside for CeeLo Green. They had this big tent. They had these 2 venues here. Joe Thomas was having, it was at a vineyard. Beautiful. A lot of money. Joe Thomas was having his party across the street. And, but anyway, he brings out the Lombardi Trophy. I said, oh, is this the one with Brady? No, this is the one with Sapp and Brooks and Lynch and Brad Johnson. They put it in the middle of the dance floor, and they allowed everybody to come up and take it. Not just get the picture like you usually see in the background. Take it with you and do your pictures there, pose with it, this and that. And then Shelton Quarles had this white like cloth, and he was rubbing it down after each thing. And then the members of that first Super Bowl team, they all got up there, and you're looking at them. Jaravicius is there, all of them, Sapp, and they all take a picture with Ronde in the gold jacket right with that Lombardi Trophy. I thought that was cool.
That's amazing right there. Rock Riley of the Rock Stops Here podcast, longtime TV personality here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Do you feel like that is the greatest play in Tampa Bay sports history? And there are some there. Some people would mention Steven Stamkos coming off the bench after being hurt. I think it's game 3 versus the Stars there. Of course, you have Aki in the first World Series appearance in 2008. But for me, for a lot of Bucs fans, at that point, 92 yards to close down the vet. Basically, you knew once you were over the top and over the hump there with the Eagles that, for me, you're going to win that Super Bowl versus the Raiders. What do you say?
I got great behind-the-scenes stories for you about that. So I was working for Bay News 9 and TV. We fly to Philadelphia. We go to the team hotel. The Philadelphia fans that were there were so rude. They started yelling at Joe Jaravicius about his baby dying. Oh my God. No, I'm not kidding you. So
wow.
We get to the vet. Now I'm doing a special 2 nights before. We already had it in email writing that we were allowed. I used to do this 11 o'clock show on Bay News 9, and we were able to do our preview show on the field. I'm moving along. It's live. Okay. I'm going along. Guy comes down. He's like, hey, where you from? Tampa Bay. Get the hell out of here. I'm like, no. We got it in writing from the authority in Philadelphia that we are allowed to be here. He goes, boom, get out of here. And he kicks me out. I was live. It was sponsoring everything, like 20 minutes to go. So yeah. Then it was a cold day in Philly. All these Philly fans were like, oh my God. They were expecting a riot because this was the last game at the vet. They were going to open up the Lincoln Financial the next year, opening up against the Bucs. So this was the last game. They had police on horses. They brought in cops on motorcycles. They were surrounding the entire field. They were expecting riots, pulling out the chairs, going crazy. We had one fan come up to us. He saw that we were from Bay News 9 Tampa. He said, "You guys aren't going to get out of here alive. Your rental car, your car's going to be overturned. All this stuff. So that's what they were facing. And one more thing, it was really a cold night. They have the benches that are heated, electric. The Philadelphia grounds crew, and one of the security guards pulls it out on the Bucs bench. So the Bucs had no heat the entire game. After they won, they shut the heater off in the showers, and it was freezing. So the Buccaneers could not take a hot shower after that game. That's how Philly treated it. And to see when Ronde, and we were in the press box, we got to go down on the field. And we were down on the field when the interception, and you should see the Buccaneers bench. They were coming over. They were like, we told you we're going to do this. We're going to San Diego. We're going to the Super Bowl. It was an unbelievable experience, Peter.
Well, and I tell you right now, because you've been up there before and covered this team, and they've got their doors blown off, and it wasn't necessarily the best start because you get a long return by Buccaneer killer Brian Mitchell for 7 yards. And then I think it's like 46 seconds in the game, They're up 7-0. What are you thinking at that point? And what is that? How does it affect that sideline? Because you're down there, you're watching this. Were they always so confident? You talked about it, Joe Jaravicious. That was probably the turning point in the game. But when that happened, they get up 7-0. Do you see, any pause for calls, any lack of confidence from that sideline?
Not from their sideline, but honestly, for me, I'm like, oh my God, Donovan McNabb, they're in their own crib. This is a very good Eagles team. They're not looking good. I'm just being honest with you. And if matter of fact, we were talking with Brad Johnson and Ira asked him about that. Were you confident when you were down? And he was there. And I said, you know what, Brad, I remember the offense. It was always the defense, obviously. Look at how many Hall of Famers they got. Sapp,
Right.
first ballot. Then goes Brooks, John Lynch, Ronde Barber, all on one team. They're Hall of Famers. That was an unbelievable defense. But
Right.
I said, Brad, I do remember as the playoffs kept going, the offense kept clicking. You were getting better and better. And he goes, oh no, go check the 6th game of that season and the points in the first half, the points in the second half, how we were coming on. He had it all down. So no, they were getting the Keenan McCardell, Keyshawn, everything. They were feeling it. They were feeling very, very confident. They were feeling very confident. And then of course we go to San Diego because in those days you didn't have the 2 weeks turnaround. It was right away. And we went to San Diego and we never saw Gruden other than the couple of press conferences that he had to do. He goes to his hotel room. He loved everything dark. I don't know if you remember that. Like he would have his place 3:00 in the morning to film. He doesn't like light in his room. He just likes looking at the film. Right. And he cleared everything out, had the works cleared out. He put up his whiteboard. He put up the boards, all the stuff, the film, and he stayed in that hotel room in San Diego for the Super Bowl day and night, unless they had practice. And then when they had practice, because the Oakland Raiders did not change the verbiage with Callahan, the new head coach. Gruden had been there with Rich Gannon. They were running the same verbiage. So Gruden pushed aside Brad Johnson. John Lynch loves to tell this story out of practice for the Super Bowl. He pushes aside and he said, I'm going to be quarterback now. And this was Gruden. He mimicked Rich Gannon. And so the Buccaneers knew every single play. Lynch was calling out the plays when they would come up to the line, the Raiders. And he said during the game, Rich Gannon's like, you guys know every effing play. This is killing us. He goes like, yeah, you guys didn't change your verbiage, man. Of course you didn't, since Gruden has been there. So I mean, it was just like when the Bucs won it this last time, where they really didn't have any major injuries. Yeah, you got to be talented. Yeah, you got to be playing your best football. It's the same in baseball, but you also have to have a little bit of on your side, nobody getting injured, everything's working out, and then they're playing the Raiders and they know the Raiders plays. So it was really unbelievable. And just with Ronde, I mean, I remember there was one Ring of Honor. I don't remember who it was with the Buccaneers that were going in, and we're allowed to go down on the field at halftime. And it usually Gene does his introduction, Gene Deckerhoff, and it runs a little late. And you're coming off, and here are the players coming in. And I remember Ronde even had almost like a little bit of a limp. He had he abused his body, and I mean, he's coming out with these guys that are so much younger. And yet all of his former teammates and stuff, they were on the field. And here Ronde is still playing on a high level and on some bad football teams. It really was incredible on how long he went.
Well, it really is. It really is.
And to play for one team, Tampa Bay.
One team, you're exactly right. Like something over 200 football games. With all that being said, we talked about Ronde Barber, Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, John Lynch, and possibly, because I'm talking to Ira Kaufman on Wednesday night about this, to try to get Simeon Rice in. Whether they get Simeon Rice in or not, do you feel like from 97 to 08, this could be the greatest defense of all time? And the reason why I say that is not only longevity, consistency, and also think about this. People say, well, the 85 Bears, they had the 4-6. Yeah, but they didn't play it that much. You have the Baltimore Ravens. They did it 1 year. I quite frankly remember the Bucs, running all over them the next year. But during that time, every team was trying to run that Tampa too. That's why I think it's probably one of the greatest defenses of all time, not only because the statistics show it, the Hall of Fame players, but the system itself, everybody was trying to replicate that.
That's it. When they take the Tampa 2 defense and other NFL teams are trying to copy it, that's saying something, but you got to have the talent. You have to have the players to be able to do it. It's very hard to copy. Monty Kiffin. Oh my God. Monty Kiffin was at the party. He was sitting down, the Godfather, at the Ronde Barber's party. And it was funny because I went over to Monty. I'm like, Monty, he's like, and he's looking at me. I mean, he's up there in he is way up there. And he looks at me. He's like, and then he thought that I was like, still like, it was back in the day and I was reporting. He's like, during that time, our defense, and with Sapp and Brooks and how we were getting to the quarterback. And, I couldn't remember Ronde's name. So I called him Randy. And he just started telling me this at the party. No, I remember that. I'm here to pay tribute to you, Monty. But no, they're up there at one of the best ever. I remember when Dilfer was with the Ravens and the Ravens played the Super Bowl here in Tampa Bay and Ray Lewis. And I remember a lot of the Baltimore media, national media at that time, they were calling the Ravens top 2, top 3 of all time. So it's a great argument to have. But when I saw those guys up there holding up that Lombardi trophy, what is it, 20 years ago, 21 years ago, something like that. It was just something to see. And I even said to Lynch, I go, oh my God, you guys were so good. Now that you see, and he was just laughing. And I was kind of kidding around. I'm like, you think you still play? Because he's general manager of the San Francisco 49ers, but he's got this baby face. It looks like he can't even shave. Like, I said, you don't even look like you're old enough to be the general manager. And we were kind of busting on him. And he's like, I said, do you think he can play? He's like, I said, how many plays? And he goes, oh, that's it. How many plays? So then I saw Warwick Dunn. And Warwick was talking to me and this and that and this and that. And Lynch was kind of kidding around. And I said, Warwick, you think you can play? And he's like, I need 3 weeks to get ready. I'm like, oh, you still think? Some guys still feel like they can still go. And he goes, I needed X amount of yards to hit this. I said, listen. And I said, how many plays? He goes, oh, is that what we're doing now? How many plays? That's what we were talking about with John Lynch. And I said, you know what? Maybe you will get in the hall. Maybe you'll get in something. I said, Fred McGriff in baseball was 7 home runs shy of 500.
Correct.
And he was knocking at the door. He wasn't even he got in. It might be a different category. It doesn't matter. So Warwick, maybe there'll be some type of category. Maybe you'll be in one day. And he was just grinning.
Well, and I'll tell you right now, I feel like Warwick Dunn definitely belongs in the Ring of Honor for the Bucs. And a lot of Bucs fans will say, well, he wasn't here long enough. Well, not only what he did on the field, but off the field. I know how much you love Warwick Dunn. I love him the same way. Do you feel like he belongs in that Ring of Honor?
Right. Yes, I actually had to, because I sit there in the stadium and I see the names, and I actually had to Google it earlier today when I was thinking about work done from this weekend. I was like, he's got it. Is he in the Ring of Honor? I don't think I ever remember. And I was like, no, he's not.
Right.
He is in the Atlanta Falcons Ring of Honor. But I don't think you would get an argument from too many Buccaneer fans if Warwick Dunn did eventually go in to the Bucs Ring of Honor.
All right, let's move on here. Let's talk about this quarterback competition. It was reported today by JC Allen up here to report that it's going to be Baker Mayfield that starts the first preseason game, and then the second it's going to be Kyle Trask. Do you think this is where the Bucs should go? What do you think about this overall quarterback competition? Because all we've heard about turnovers, how Baker is turning it over, 7 interceptions already compared to Trask is 1. And then on top of it, a lot of pundits continue to say, especially locally, that they see something different with Trask out there in training camp. What do you say, Rock?
Yeah, I do. He is a different quarterback than he was the last couple of years. But again, the last couple of years, he was the scout team quarterback. You have to mimic the opposing quarterback that your team is going to play. You're not really calling your own plays like with the Buccaneers offense. And then this is a new offense. No, Baker Mayfield comes in with the experience, okay? And Trask does not have NFL experience. 9 passes, right? 3 of 9. That's it, regular season game. However, it is a competition. That's what they said. All right, so we all figured it was Baker Mayfield. Then last week, you notice in Kyle Trask, man, he is really coming on. he's playing better. Baker Mayfield, when he comes back after the 1 day off, he admits it. He did not have a good week. He's gotten a little bit better. But again, I know Canales has told us this. Todd Bowles has told me turnovers is going to weigh heavily. Do not turn it over. We don't want any more Jameis Winston. We cannot afford to beat ourselves with the turnovers. Who you are, Baker Mayfield, he takes more chances than Trask. And when you're a chance taker like that, you're going to have some more turnovers. Is he going to be able to all of a sudden just change who he is? I don't think so. I remember years ago, I was doing a radio show with Booger McFarland, and we go into a break, and Booger McFarland had a friend. I don't want to say his name. He is a former Buccaneer defensive back. He was with the Jets as a coach, and he was telling us in practice that I know that there's a ton of Tim Tebow fans. Tim Tebow is a great man. I know he threw the pass in the playoffs, the Denver game, Pittsburgh. I get all that. However, the motion that he had was slow. Okay. He went one off season and he worked with a quarterback's coach to change that. Get rid of it quicker. Come from here. Then you get into live bullets and you revert back to just what you're so used to. And I just think that Baker Mayfield, he's somewhat of a gunslinger. He sees double coverage. He still thinks he's going to fire it in there. He's going to do it. That's what you get. You're not going to get that from Trask. But again, you don't have the experience, and he hasn't seen an opposing team jersey. So if JC is right, I think that is a good move. You start with the guy that's got a little bit more experience, and then you switch it up for week number 2. I honestly think that, and I was the one that asked Canales, has this race tightened? And he said, yes, it has from when they first started.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big story coming out. The race has tightened. This quarterback competition has tightened overall. What do you make of Todd Bowles' comments? We'll finish out with this. Once again, really appreciate the time, Rock Riley. Ryan Jensen, Todd Bowles today was asked about it. He's not sure what's going on here. I mean, the more he doesn't, suit up in training camp.
I haven't seen Ryan Jensen yet. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen him in 11 on 11. And come on, man, we're days away from the first preseason game. If he's not able to practice full go, how's he going to do it in a game? He elected to not. He did the stem cell. He elected to not have surgery. He somehow gutted it out in that one game. But I haven't seen him do anything other than just, a little bit of the walkthrough kind of drills and hold the pads. It's not good. That is not good in my eyes.
Yeah, it's not good. And a lot of people go and point to the game last year in the playoffs with 7 months ago. Maybe he shouldn't have played it. Who knows? At the end of the day, Rock Riley, thanks a lot for your time here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Go ahead and promote yourself, this great podcast that you do on a weekly basis. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's called The Rock Stops Here. So you can Google The Rock Stops Here, Rock Riley, The Rock Stops Here podcast. And I talk to those mostly in the sports world. I'm going to start branching out a little bit more in the entertainment world. How did you make it to the top? Besides the hard work and all that, how'd you make it? And if you're no longer at the top, what's that like? You know what I mean? Because a lot of these guys, they reach the pinnacle and they're young guys. They're 29, 30 years old. You got a full life. So I do that. I work for the Tampa Free Press, cover the Bucs, the Rays, the Lightning, things like that. Real Rock Riley on Twitter and Instagram, and Rock Riley on Facebook.
There you go, Rock Riley. Thanks a lot for your time here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television, my friend. All right.
You got it, Peter, always.
All right, there you go. Rock Riley with great stuff, as always. Great stories. That's what you get there. That's what you get from a TV legend. That's what you get with a guy who's doing a podcast and talking to so many guests. And definitely check that out. The Rock Stops Here. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll have JC Allen of Pewter Report on the Sports Web live on I Love St. Pete, the Hub, Amped Up Sports, and Bucs Life. Are you an athlete or professional struggling with life or career transition? Life isn't always easy, but hope is always present. Best Hope Counseling will help you move forward. For nearly a decade, licensed marriage and family therapist Larry Baumgartner has helped clients empower change and discover solutions using a solution-focused therapy approach. Conversations will focus on what you desire to change, not just the problems that brought you into counseling. From anger to depression or other emotions, Best Hope Counseling is there for you. Contact Larry personally on his direct line at 727-946-1346. Again, 727-946-1346 for a telehealth appointment in Florida and Minnesota, or in person an appointment in Minnesota. Take time out and begin your game plan to reconnect, rebuild, and restore happiness in your life. BestHopeCounseling.com. Welcome back to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake. Open phone lines if you want to get in and have a question for JC Allen of Pewter Report. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. The other number, in case you can't get through, 727-409-7528. Again, 727-409-7528. I will come back to the comments in just a moment. Let's go ahead and get him on. I wish I had some type of intro for you, but and I can't see your face once again, but thanks a lot for joining me here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. And by the way, congratulations to your kids, Cannon and the little one there going to school. I mean, go ahead and talk about that a little bit before we get into the Bucs. Welcome to the evolution.
Yeah, always a pleasure to be here, Peter. Yeah, I mean, kindergarten and second grade, they start school on Thursday. So today was meet the teacher, but it's nice. You know, they're 2 years apart, but now they're finally in the same school together, which will be nice. They'll be, be able to go to school together, get dropped off, get picked up. And, it's summer's over, but glad school's here.
Yeah, glad school is here, and they are getting bigger and bigger by the day. I just remember, having them both on my lap during, a Bucs watch party, and now it's just like, oh my gosh, Cannon is huge. She's getting bigger, and I know that the wifey there, Taylor, is not crying, as she said in her post. With that being said, you had the breaking news of the day, my friend. According to JC Allen of Pewter Report, Baker Mayfield will start the first preseason game versus the Steelers. Kyle Trask will start the second game versus the Jets. You surprised that the Bucs went this direction?
Not at all. I think this was going to be the kind of, you probably could have figured it out just because Baker started the offseason work, taking reps with the first team, and then Trask got the next day. They've been alternating days ever since. So it makes sense. You gave Baker the first go around. With the starters, you give them the first preseason game, and then Trask gets the second one. By that time, they'll both have a preseason game under their belt. They'll have the joint practices under their belt in the Jets, and that's maybe when we'll see a starter named, leading up to that Ravens game, the final third preseason. Or maybe they'll just let it play out, name a starter for that game, and we'll have to wait and see on that one. But I definitely kind of read between the tea leaves to get confirmation of it was nice, but. You kind of figured that might be the way all along.
Yeah, I mean, and what do you see in camp? Because all we've heard, again, the turnover situation, it's a big facet of the offense. We heard from Todd Bowles about it. I mean, what do you see from Baker? What do you see from Trask? He's improved. Go ahead and give us some analysis on that quarterback competition in your opinion.
Yeah, I think the turnovers can get kind of blown out of proportion. We're just reporting on what we're seeing. Obviously, we're keeping a tally tracker, 7 interceptions for Baker, 2 for Trask. But really, we don't know. We don't get the practice film. We don't know what calls are being made. How many of those interceptions by Baker are bad decisions? How many of them are, because remember, everyone's learning a new system at the same time. Yeah. How many of those are receivers running the wrong route? How many of those, there's been a few that have been tipped that, you've got to count them for the quarterback, but then there's just, how many of those are him just testing things out, just trying, okay, can I force this ball here? Does he have the catch radius to make this? So we don't really know that situation as in full now. I will say both the quarterbacks have struggled to find consistency with the deep ball. And, Baker has definitely made some of the bigger, splashier plays for sure. Kyle Trask has been extremely consistent. What I've seen out of him is he's very decisive with the ball, going through his reads, getting the ball out when it's not there. Surprisingly, if you remember, the note on Trask was he was a pocket passer. And that's one of the biggest reasons why they're like, oh, this is going to be great to learn behind Tom. But he's slimmed down and he's looking more athletic. He's pulling the ball down and rolling out with it, boots and waggles. So definitely seen a different side of Trask there. I would say both of these guys, as Dave Canales said, and from what I'm seeing and what we're seeing over there at camp, it is a tight race. Now, that being said, I still think this is Baker's job to lose just because of the experience he has. And I feel like it will be easier to make the transition from Baker to Trask than it would from Trask to Baker. Baker still needs to make sure that he, is taking care of the ball. I think, like I said, preseason joint practices will be more indicative of that rather than the first 9 practices of camp, where, again, they're learning a new system. They're still learning each other, building upon the work that they did in OTAs in the offseason. So while Trask has looked very good, and if you were going based off what they've done in practice, you might say Trask is a leader right now. I still think this is Baker's job to lose, and Trask is just going to have to go out there and sling it like no one other, touchdowns, no picks, big plays, in order to really pull ahead of Baker Mayfield, who the Bucs, remember, I reported this last year and reiterated this when he signed. If Brady had walked away last season, they were all in, or maybe not all in, that's too strong of a word, but they were certainly in on a Baker Mayfield trade from the Browns if Brady didn't come back. They surely liked him last year, and they continue to like him this year. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, and again, there's the potential there, right? I mean, he's worked under this Ram scheme. We assume that it's, a hybrid. It's not only Seattle system with Dave Canales, but also what Sean McVay ran with the Rams. We're on with JC Allen of Pewter Report. With all that being said, how's it going to work out? Mayfield, of course, is not going to play the whole game. Are we going to see any of Trask during that first preseason game?
Oh, yeah. I would definitely expect so. I think they'll both get reps, and then, John Wolford will get some reps too. And I think the thing with John Wolford, he's looked like the best quarterback in camp, to be honest with you.
Wow.
But that's in a small capsule there because he knows the system best, right? He's been in it with McVay, and while this isn't a carbon copy of McVay's system, it is derivative of his, just like the one they ran in Seattle, just like the one that's all over the league, whether that's up in Minnesota, Cincinnati, Cleveland. I mean, this version, Kyle Shanahan really started it, and his father, Mike Shanahan, really started it, but this version of this offense is popping up all over the league because it's so successful. So he's got a lot of experience in it. Obviously, terminology is different, and there's wrinkles that Canales is putting on that he's learned throughout the years from all the other coordinators he's been with, and Pete Carroll, Darrell Bevel, Schottenheimer, etc. But he's well versed in this offense, so I think Wolford getting those reps is going to be not only good for him to keep him sharp, and obviously you don't want to wear out either Trask or Mayfield in a full game, but also for mental reps for both of those guys, and that's why he's getting a handful of reps with the ones in camp. He's getting more reps than a normal QB3 would get in a camp, I think. And that's so when they look back at the practice film, when they look back at the game film after this week's game and next week's game, they can kind of look at Wolford and be like, okay, that makes sense. Okay. He's reading this, he's reading that. This is what we should be doing in the offense. So it's very vital for all of them because, as Canales said, he's one of the smartest guys in the room right there, and it's just going to help everybody out. One stat, Peter, that I came across recently, and I knew it, but just to see it put in a picture form.
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield, Todd Bowles is his 8th head coach, and Dave Canales is his 7th offensive coordinator in the league in just 5 years. That to me tells you all you kind of really need to know about what Baker's had to go through. The talent was there enough to make him the first overall pick. You saw when he got his chance his rookie season, he set the rookie record for touchdowns. And then when he got into this style of system in 2020 with Kevin Stefanski, he had his best season as a pro. He limited the turnovers, scored touchdowns, brought them a few plays away, if Chad Henne didn't step in and play like Superman from an AFC Championship game. I think if you can get that Baker in this offense, he's humbled. He's learned a lot in his last couple stops. Last year was never a good fit. We saw some success last season with a depleted offensive line, no Cooper Kupp and weapons out when he was in Allen Robinson, who doesn't even look like Allen Robinson anymore, over with the Rams. So I think he's healthy for the first time. That 2021 season was marred with injuries, OBJ with drama, getting traded at or released at the deadline. There was just a lot of things going on. So if Baker can come back to that 2020 season he had in a similar offense now that he's healthy, I think the Bucs will be in a really good position. But if not, one of the reasons why they're doing this battle and stretching it out so long, just like last year with Geno Smith and Drew Lock, is if one of them struggles, you feel really good about the guy stepping in. And not only you feel really good, the team, your teammates feel really good. Hey, our season's not over, right? We've got Trask, who we've taken reps with the number one. He knows the offense. We saw how good he looked in camp, so if Baker struggles or gets injured, it's one of those things where the next guy stepping in, you're not as worried, and for morale of the team, you're not thinking, oh, the season's over. You feel like you still got a good shot with Trask in there. If it is indeed Baker and Trask is the backup.
All right, good stuff there from JC Allen of Pewter Report. If you have a question for him, get on the phone line, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. The other number, in case you can't get through, 727-409-7528. Again, 727-409-7528. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. I got to go back to this because I asked Rock about it. I'm going to ask you about it. Todd Bowles was asked today about Ryan Jensen's return to live action, and he says, it's a good question. I don't know. Honestly, I just go by what the doctors and trainers tell me and go by how he's feeling and working on progress. Some days are good. Some days are not good. I just wait for the answer and kind of go from there. Kind of concerning, if you will. I mean, because Jensen did play in that playoff game. I'll tell you what, let's hold off on that really quick. We'll get back to that in a moment. Let's go out to our phone lines. Mike leading it off tonight here on The Evolution. You're on with yours truly, along with Mr. JC Allen of Pewter Report. What's your question?
Yes. Not a question really per se, but I'm just glad that Devin White sat down with management and discussed what needed to be fixed.
Okay.
I'm just glad that they sit down and the whole situation and become more and more frosty.
More toxic, more of a distraction. It was nice to see that from him today. In fact, we're going to go out to those comments in just a moment. He talked to the media today, and I think that was eye-opening where he sat down with Todd Bowles and Jason Light, and they have a plan going forward because all you heard the last couple months here in the offseason is how he wanted to trade, talking to, teammates that are on the Philadelphia Eagles, not really making friends with the fan base here in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
It was kind of looking rather TO-ish.
TO-ish. Well, I don't think we're there yet, Mike. Do you have a question for JC?
Oh, no, I don't.
Okay. All right, man. I appreciate it. We'll definitely get to that Devin White stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate the call. Use that second call if you like to. I mean, let's go out to it here. We'll get back to Ryan Jensen in a moment, but let's go out to these comments here from Devin White. Stand by, JC. Here
for a long time, but actually after really just sitting down with Coach Bowles and Jason Light, just understanding they plan for me and, what they got in play and, just coming up with something with them guys just to, see how I could be better and, moving forward, I think we all came to a good agreement and, that's why I'm here just focusing on the season now. As far as regret, I don't think it's no regret, and I don't think it's just about being paid. It's just about being a guy who was drafted here, and doing a lot for this program. Just want to be the long-term guy, just want to be a guy like Levante. He been here forever. I wanted to be that next guy, and we just didn't make it happen when I wanted it to, and that's where I kind of got a little selfish, even knowing I still had the fifth-year option, and that was a thing in play. And I mean, I guess early on you don't realize it. You just know, like, hey, I'm at the end of my contract. Let's get it in, lock me in. I know I feel comfortable here. I love the coaching staff here. I love all, the teammates, even the fans. The ones that went against me or the ones still with me. It's all love. But at the end of the day, I thought that was best for me. But at the end of the day, I'm still here, and I came back with a positive mindset, and I'm locked in. And I mean, y'all been watching practice. I've been getting it in. I've been trying to be the leader for this team because we got a great bunch this year. And I think we can get it done.
All right, Devin White there talking to the media today. Your thoughts on his comments? Seems humbled. Talked about it. He was again. I believe he said it in so many words. A little bit selfish there. Kind of coming back humble. What have you seen from him out at training camp, JC?
Yeah, I think first of all, to humble yourself and realize, hey, maybe I was in the wrong here. The plan was all along that they would like to keep Devin White. Bowles loves him. But again, we also need to see more consistency from Devin White. If you looked at the ESPN rankings that Jeremy Fowler does every year, he's still up there. I mean, I think he was ranked fifth or seventh. I can't remember. Fifth as one of the best off-ball linebackers in the league, ranked by coaches, scouts, and executives. So, I mean, there's still a ton of value in what Devin White can bring to a team. The thing is, too, with this year, this was the Brady Capit year, most people knew it. Devin's probably not so in tune with the cap and how it works. But it was unrealistic to extend him this year, especially just to make sure, if you're going to, he wants to get $100 million, you need to make sure he can play consistently. You need to make sure that he's taking everything they're giving him and working on in the offseason. So far, we've seen that. He's looked better in his dropbacks. He's still able to get after the quarterback, had a sack and had a would-be sack, rather, and was close to another one in the practice on, I believe it was Saturday's practice or Friday's practice, rather.
Mm-hmm.
He's still flying around there and making plays as well, but I think with Devin White, he just needs to, and it sounds like he does realize he just needs to be patient in this process. Go out there, have a good season. They're going to have a ton of extra cap space next year. Now they do need to sign Wirfs and Winfield, but it'll be more fathomable to give a large cap hit that you can stretch out. Remember, they're paying all these void years and everything like that for these other players still on the roster. There could be a world where Shaq Barrett doesn't live up to expectations and they move on from him, which would open some cap space, especially if they feel like they've got two edge players in Yaya Diaby and Joe Tryon-Shoyinka if they both step up this year. So there's multiple different scenarios that need to come along before Devin gets paid. He's on his fifth-year option. He didn't need to get paid this year, per se. I understand the player side of it. If he gets injured, then what? You want to make sure you're taking care of yourself, your family, setting yourself up with a long-term deal. But at the same time, you're playing on a contract. This is your contract. And if you're complaining about money now, there was never, I think, any case of him holding out and missing $50,000 a day like Zach Martin is with the Cowboys. But he's looked good. Again, just need to see it more. It's hard to get a read on defensive linemen, outside linebackers, and sometimes linebackers, especially the way Devin plays the game, because the offense, they're protecting each other, the offensive line, running backs, defensive line, linebackers. They're trying to protect each other. So once preseason comes around, once the real games come around for Devin, then we'll kind of see, okay, where has he taken what he's been given as far as improvements, and we'll see if he can really improve on these situations where he's been inconsistent in the past.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, and that's the reason why he doesn't have an extension yet, because we've seen him. Again, I keep on going back to this, and I continue to go back to the 2020 postseason where he's taking over. He's a defensive leader. He talked about being a defensive leader, and at times last year didn't necessarily have the effort. He even talked about that in his presser today about this team overall returning to that type of run defense where teams were fearing them. In your opinion, they kind of took a step back last year, and I think a lot of that was Devin White and the effort and the inconsistencies, not just in coverage, but just overall effort, taking bad angles and tackling in general.
Yeah, that, I think it was injuries. Obviously, you're out with Akeem Hicks for a long stretch of time. You didn't have Ndamukong Suh there. I think the loss of Jordan Whitehead hurt more than the team would like to admit. They shored that up with Ryan Neal this season. They got Kalijah Cansey and Greg Gaines here to help with that run game this year. And then Devin certainly was a part of it as well, playing undisciplined at times. I'll use the word that Coach Bowles said, loafing at times. Having Antoine Winfield play at the nickel spot instead of his free safety spot. I think there are multiple issues that contribute to the Bucs run defense falling off. But sure, Devin White was certainly one of those, and I think he knows that. And that's why the hope is that he's coming to this year. You want to be paid like Fred Warner and Roquan Smith. Well, you're in a contract year now. Prove it. So we'll see what transpires on the field. But the first step was coming out and finally talking to the media after 9 practices and saying, "Look, I take ownership of what I did. I want to be here. I want to be long term here. This is where I want to play, and I'm working on ways to prove it to y'all. Y'all see me out here. My teammates know what I'm bringing, and that's the right mindset he should have going into the season. Now prove it."
All right, now we're on with JC Allen up here to report. I want to go out to Tristan Wirfs here because to me, he had some very honest comments and talking about his transition over to the left side. Bucs fans, pay attention to this. We're going to come back here with JC in just a moment. Here we go.
Flipped, and trying to retrain my brain to, by getting as many reps as I can, throwing my left hand as much as I can. It's really hard. Like I hold on to this. Oh, I wish I had it. I hold on as little like a little sponge in my right hand just so I have something to think about instead of wanting to throw it, across my body. And it's a big no-no for tackles. But really just, building confidence and throwing my left hand and staying square in my set and kind of keeping all my weight inside, not getting all my weight out on my outside leg. Coach Joe, he told me, he's like, I'm not going to let you fail. So it's been great, having him, push me every step of the way. Just try not to let anybody down and do the best I can, because they trusted me, they put me in this position and, I want to go out there and do the best that I can and show them that I can do it. I don't know if it's necessarily subsided. I think just the negative thoughts have kind of been outweighed by the positive thoughts now. I've been meeting with our team, the sports psychologist, just to try and help it a little bit. Cause I was in a really rough spot, like mentally. I was really nervous. Like I was like playing the season in my head, like over and over again. I'm like, oh, what if it goes this way? What if it goes this way? And I'm like, it's freaking May. I'm like, you got to calm down, but it's been a lot better, just kind of, trusting myself and having confidence in my abilities and knowing the work that I put in is going to pay off and coming out here every day, having the best attitude I can, especially having young guys kind of look up to me now. We got these two, we got Silas and Raekwon, like they're asking me questions and stuff. It's weird. Silas is freaking older than me, but I'm I'm trying to help those guys out the best I can. Sometimes in the team drills, like it might not look like how I'm saying it, but like I know what I'm talking about. I was like, I'm trying to do it, but just trying to stay as positive as I can. It's helps me mentally quite a bit.
All right, welcome back to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Your thoughts on these comments, because they're very honest, they're very open. He's talking to a sports psychologist. We kind of talked about it, the transition. I feel like he'll be able to do that because he did it in his rookie year, going there on the right side, blocking for Tom Brady. Kind of surprised he's talking to a sports psychologist, but whatever is good for your mental health at the end of the day, we know it's going to be a challenge. How surprised were you by these comments from Wirfs?
Well, first, I just want to commend him because I think in one of the most macho sports in the world, for him to come out here and talk about the mental issues he was facing, needs to be talked to more. It needs to be more prevalent.
Agree.
And sets an amazing example for younger kids, college kids, and other athletes in the NFL that, these are things that we're just like every other guy out there. These are some things that I'm going through, that I'm thinking about, and hopefully, propels the next group to open up about how they're feeling. So commend him 100% on coming out and talking about it, especially with the platform he has. He's one of the best players in the league, all pro right tackle, making the move to left tackle. So really want to commend him for that. As far as his transition to left tackle, I haven't seen a drop off. He's still planting guys on their butts. Obviously for him, and I'm not going to speak for him directly, but I think it's a little bit more self-doubt than really more than he's given himself credit for. He's had some hiccups, sure, here and there. I'm not going to say he hasn't, but it doesn't look like the level of play that we're used to at right tackle is going to drop off from him at left tackle. I think if you look at the landscape in the NFC, there's probably a few guys that, are probably better than him to right away at left tackle. But I mean, if he comes out swinging, there's no reason why he can't make the Pro Bowl as an alternate or a starter. I mean, Trent Williams is there, so probably not a starter, but as an alternate at least. Just with what I've seen so far in camp, we'll see when it comes to Friday and the next couple of preseason games, what it's like in a game action when again, guys aren't trying to protect each other. But I haven't seen much of a drop off in his level of play. I think he's just one of those rare athletes that has the smarts, the athleticism to be able to make that switch and do it without much of a drop off.
Love it. JC Allen, help you to report a couple of names here that came to mind. Of course, Yaya Diaby, love him as a third-round pick from Louisville. I think he's definitely going to challenge JTS. Derek Pitts Jr., a corner, and Devin Tompkins. Talk about all those guys and what you've seen from them in camp.
Devin Tompkins, for a 5'8" guy, can jump out of the gym. He's consistently making plays, high-pointing balls, going over corners who are much bigger than him, doing it in double coverage. Been really excited to see him. He's not just a guy that can take those short routes and use decisive cuts and quickness and speed to get yards after the catch, but he's a guy showing he can go up and catch it on a deep ball contested catch situation too, which has been really surprising. Yaya Diaby came as advertised. He's like an action figure. He's big, he's jacked, and he's fast. And he's really been showing up, getting his hands on an interception, batting balls down at the line, getting after the quarterback. I don't think he's going to be a starter per se, but definitely a strong rotational piece, at least early on. Joe Tryon-Trinka, he's looked pretty good too. He's had a good camp. He pulled off a nasty spin move on one-on-ones against Luke Gedeke a couple practices ago. He's got after the quarterback. If he's not as much as we'd like, but he understands too that he's in a pseudo contract here. It's only his third year in the league. He's got his next year, but if he wants that fifth-year option, he knows that he needs picked up and wants to be part of the Buccaneers' future plans. He knows he needs to have a hell of a season. And for all of the times that he was close to sacks, there's about probably 5 of them, which probably should have been sacks, which would put him at 9 sacks for a sophomore season after a rookie season, which remember saw him playing out of position and splitting time with Jason Pierre-Paul. That would have been perfectly acceptable, but he still got the pressure, still over 30 pressures last year, which is good, just needs to finish. And the hope is that bringing in over Coach Edwards, who worked with Micah Parsons, will help him get to that level and finish and help him with his bend and turning at the top of his rush instead of, maybe widening it out. But I think he's penciled in as the starter, but Diaby's certainly going to push him. Derek Pitts has been good. I think both of the undrafted cornerbacks have been good. With Derek Pitts and Keenan Isaac, they both shown flashes. They both came down with interceptions. Off Baker in this practice so far. It's a good competition. We saw Don Gardner last year was an undrafted guy come down with a few interceptions. Before that, there was what was the guy's name? There was an undrafted corner who came down with a few interceptions in practice a few years ago. I ended up going with the San Francisco 49ers out of training camp after he was released. But guys you can stash in the practice squad. I don't think either of those guys necessarily might make the roster. They'll have to have really good preseason games and show out in order to get that push. But yeah, there's been some really surprising guys for sure. I think Savasier Dennis has shown up a lot. The Bucs are going to have to find a way to get him on the field if he continues to show up, making plays in coverage, using his smarts and quickness. He's had 4 interceptions, 2 for pick sixes. Another rookie who's really kind of showed out. Christian Izzian is a name to watch too. He's been split in reps with D. Delaney, Joshua Hazer, 6th-round draft pick at the nickel corner spot. He's got an Antoine Winfield build to him. He's very versatile, can play safety, can play that nickel cornerback spot, and I like what I've seen out of him a lot too. He's got a nose for the ball, good closing speed and burst. So they've got some guys who I think they're really high on, especially, some of the rookies and undrafted guys.
Love it. I know you got to get out of here because you got other things to do than sit on a show all night long and talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I know you wanted to kind of share some of your insight of what you thought about WWE SummerSlam. Was that typical of that inning? Let's go to the bloodline here with.
Well, let me jump on Jensen first because we didn't get to it.
Yes.
So,
on Jensen.
Jensen, I think the deal with Jensen is you don't rush him back.
Okay.
Even if he doesn't play a snap in preseason, I think they'll be fine. He's there in all the meetings. He's there at practice. He's getting the installs. He's taking those mental reps. Now, there could be some concern that he's not getting chemistry with the two new guards that are going to be next to him and Matt Filer and Cody Mauch. And I can see some concern there. But it's Ryan Jensen. I think he'll be fine. We don't get to see the walkthroughs that they do. We only get to see the practice. So I'm sure he's getting some of those reps and walkthroughs with them as well. So I'm not too worried about Ryan Jensen missing time. If he doesn't suit up for the first time until week 1, I think it's going to be they'll be okay. You don't want to rush. And I know he already came back, which is the question marks there, right? He came back to play a game.
Mm-hmm.
But if he feels like he needs more time, if the doctors feel like he needs more time, then and maybe you're putting him in bubble wrap a little bit just because you saw the significance of what last year's season meant. And that's not taking anything away from Bob Hainsey, who did really good. But Jensen brings a different type of tone and sets a different type of tone for the offensive line when he's out there. So even if he doesn't go until week 1, I don't think anyone should be too concerned about that. I think he'll be able to fit in there, slide in most next to those guys, and not skip a beat.
All right, SummerSlam. How
Yes.
surprised were you with that ending with Jimmy turning on Jay? And, of course, I didn't think Roman Reigns was going to lose the title at all. I thought the match was pretty slow, honestly, but it had some good spots, some good action. What did you say?
Yeah, I think we all figured Reigns was going to hold on to the title. The Jimmy thing didn't make too much sense to me. I think you maybe could have introduced that at a later point. I think the storyline could have shifted to Solo, but with Roman reportedly taking time off, now you can, kind of center the bloodline issues, non-bloodline issues between Jimmy and Jay and build up a match for that.
Right.
Selfishly, I was hoping that, Roman would get on the mic and say, "I'm the tribal chief, I'm undisputed," and you'd hear a little "If you smell what the Rock was cooking."
Well, I think they were foreshadowing to it because I saw a couple moves and people thought I was crazy because I was watching this with TJ Reeves, Jason Powers, and another friend.
No invite?
I didn't know where you were that night. I would have invited you. We're gonna invite you next time. I gotta get you there. But here's the thing: they did a couple rock bottoms a couple times there.
Yeah,
I feel like they were foreshadowing to The Rock and Roman Reigns, and I feel like that may be the match eventually. I hope it's not WrestleMania, but I'm kind of starting to think that maybe it is WrestleMania. Maybe it's gonna be Cody versus Seth. What do you say?
Yeah, maybe they do something. It's difficult because of the brand split. The only clear path, and we've seen them go away from it too, but the only clear path is for Cody to win the Rumble to challenge him at WrestleMania. Cody even said after the pay-per-view in the press conference that that's finishing the story, right? To get back at that stage and have a different outcome. But at the same time, if you can get The Rock there, how do you waste that opportunity? And The Rock is actually on Heart to Heart, Kevin Hart's show, and he was talking about them wanting, he was talking about WrestleMania in Philadelphia,
right?
And so it's like it's one of those things where you want to see Cody finish the story there. It's 2 nights. Can you really book Roman back-to-back nights? I mean, I think you can. But how do you set that up? I don't know. Cody and Seth would be cool, I guess. We've seen that, but then how do you make Cody drop the belt prior to without making his case look, his journey, his story,
right?
Not even weak, but just look different. Yeah. Unless you have him win, and then the Judgment Day interrupt. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. It will be interesting to see. I thought that Seth and Finn Balor match was the best match of the night, though.
Well, I tell you right now, I thought it was pretty good, and I also thought Logan Paul versus Ricochet was pretty good with all the spots that they had there. And of course, wasn't surprised that Logan won. And then of course he decides to And he talked about this. The reason why he wanted to go number one in the first place is because he wanted to join his brother.
And he made it.
And his brother knocked the stuffing out of Nate Diaz, which was a better fight than I originally thought it was going to be. I think Diaz stayed in the fight, got the payday, but some of the punches he was trying to throw there, he's definitely not a boxer. What else?
He's making his living off going up against former MMA guys. So
right.
Hey, they're both getting the bag. That's all that matters. I thought Io Sky winning was a really great surprise. Obviously, with everybody saying LA Knight winning was awesome because he's my guy. I've been on him since he got back up to the roster in October. Super hyped about him. Gunther and Drew McIntyre as delivered. I'm looking forward to the rematch, potentially at Payback. I know they're trying to get him over Honky Tonk's record, and then I think he drops the title, and then maybe he challenges Seth. That would be a fun match. Or if Damian cashes in, Gunther versus Damian at maybe Survivor Series or something. So they're definitely got some stories set up. I think the Ronda match and Shayna, I would rather saw Trish and Becky in that spot, to be honest with you.
Yep.
It was a good card. I'd give it a solid B+. Definitely looking forward to catching up on Raw. Looks like Chad Gable is going to be the next opponent for Gunther, which will be a fun match, I think, after their match last week. So storylines are moving and grooving and shaking. Allen got some big news this weekend in Wembley, with the addition of CM Punk versus Samoa Joe and FTR calling out the Young Bucks. So that will be a good card coming up here soon, too, to watch.
Are you surprised that the Elite re-signed with AEW?
Not at all. No. I think Kenny Omega's probably the only guy WWE would be interested. The rest of them, I don't think there would be a spot for them in the WWE. And to be honest, the WWE is oversaturated now as it is. They need a third show because they're just not – they've got talent that they're not showcasing because right now the storylines are just Judgment Day and Bloodline, and, they're working to try to fit everybody else into it. There's – if you're not in one of these factions or high-profile tag teams, you're not seeing time unless you're one of the champions, one of these main guys, and there's plenty of guys on the roster.
Well, JC, how genius was it for WWE to finally turn Montez Ford and the Street Profits?
That's going to be fun.
Heel with Bobby Lashley. I feel like it's the Hurt Business, and then eventually I feel like Bianca Belair, who is the wife of Montez Ford, who is a future superstar. You watch this guy wrestle. He's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, how genius was that?
Well, I think the push was originally going to go for Montez Ford, but LA Knight just got over so organically they had to shift gears. So, putting him in with Bobby Lashley in that stable, I think it's been a long time coming for Bianca to become heel, even though I think she'll be feuding with Charlotte upcoming soon, who is naturally a heel. So it'll be interesting to see how she makes that turn. If it's, everyone's on Io Sky, if it's maybe feuding with her, and turning her heel that way, that would be interesting. But it's definitely going to be, I think it's a good pairing, a good faction, whether it's the Hurt Business or something else. It definitely gives shades of it. And it's been a while since we've got Bobby featured on TV. Again, the only thing I'm just worried about too is I think we've seen Bobby do the United States title stuff. They need to find a way to split up these tag teams to give the SmackDown roster something to compete for. We haven't seen Sammy and KO on SmackDown in months now, it feels like.
Yep.
That doesn't really have any competitors. And what are you going to do with Bobby?
Sammy just got jumped backstage, and I think Kevin Owens has a legitimate injury, and
he does. So, are they going to drop it anytime soon? Are they going to be forced to? I know Kevin Owens is displeased with the direction reports come out where the titles have gone recently. So there's a lot of question marks that they need to kind of figure out. And supposedly, according to Triple H, Vince is not really involved in creative. So, the blame comes down onto him at this point. And, I think they got to do a better job of getting other guys involved in the storylines week in and week out. The Bloodline storyline is fantastic. Judgment Day is, but I think they're wasting a lot of potential on some of these other guys.
I agree. Well, let's take a quick phone call and then we get you out of here. Roger Shoe, the tribal troll.
Acknowledge me.
Along with yours truly, along with JC Allen, talking SummerSlam and also Tampa Bay Buccaneer football. What's on your mind?
First of all, cancel these jabronis that you have doing Wrestle Talk. Let's have JC Allen do it, brother. He's awesome.
I'm trying to get him on here all the time. I mean, I know the guy works, but I love when he's on Turnbuckle Talk on Wednesday nights at 10:20.
Too late. It's too late for me.
It's kind of late for him. So, we kind of try to mix it in.
Two jabronis.
Will you shut up and be quiet, Roger? Go ahead.
Putting him over. He's a baby face. I love him.
He is, man. He's awesome. That's why we have him on here. What's on your mind, Roger?
Your other little clip that you started the show out was some total bogus nonsense about the Bucs defense being the greatest of all time.
With the longevity from 97 to 08, you look at the numbers, you look at the Hall of Famers. Wait, you're going to say the 85 Bears. And
you're
when I'm
totally showing your football ignorance.
Please.
I'm going to go against the 85 Bears just because they beat my Patriots. So,
Well, here's the thing, though, and this is my point. Not only the Hall of Famers, the consistency, the longevity, but also every team was trying to run the Tampa 2. There weren't many teams trying to run the 4-6 because the 4-6 only lasted a couple years, right?
I think when you look at it, the Purple People Eaters, the Steel Curtain, the 85 Bears, the Buccaneers and their Tampa 2, and that Ravens defense the year they won the Super Bowl, those are probably the top 5 defenses to play in the NFL. They just did uncanny things, and they all deserve their spot in the glory. To put one ahead of them, it is difficult because of the different eras and different times they played in. That's my take on it. But the Bears, if we had to make a list, the Bears are definitely 5th.
Well, and here's the thing. And I would say this. I think the era of football is a lot more difficult because it caters to the offense. It caters to the quarterback, which is even more of a reason why you would rank the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as the greatest defense of all time. So, up yours there, Roger Shoe. What else is on your mind?
Peter, I don't know what you're smoking in Holiday, brother, but I want some.
Well, you're right down the street, my friend. You know what I'm smoking your Bears tonight, and I'm smoking your whole
the Bears pack.
Fields was your quarterback. You wouldn't have a controversy in Tampa.
What was that?
You wish you had Justin Fields as your quarterback so you wouldn't have a controversy in Tampa.
There's no controversy.
Is he a quarterback or is he a running back?
We'll see.
He's the best of both worlds, baby.
We'll see, Roger. We'll see. All right. Go ahead.
He's an MVP candidate already.
All right. Well, you got JC off of there. Now he's on. All right, Roger Shoe. Appreciate the call as always.
Oh, yeah.
NFC Championship.
All right. So we'll see, Roger. I'm gonna.
Your boy Coach Prime is back in the chat, so I've had a little issue with him already.
Yeah, that's all right. That he's a troll, just like you are. Your brother's trolls in arms there, Roger.
I'm allowed to be.
All right, I know you are. All right, appreciate it. Here you go. Good stuff.
You guys have an awesome night. Keep up the great show, man. It's been awesome. Love it.
Hey, man, thanks a lot. There you go. Thanks, good stuff. We'll give him the Ric Flair. Woo! JC, we'll get you out of here on that. Go ahead and promote yourself here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Once again, thanks a lot for all your time, man.
Oh, absolutely. You guys can find me at JC Allen NFL on Twitter. One-stop shop for everything Bucs, whether it's my thoughts, the Buccaneers content they're putting out, or obviously our stellar content that you can check out at PeterReport.com, at Peter Report on Twitter, Peter Report TV on YouTube for all of our podcasts, and also all of your other Apple, Amazon, whatever you listen to podcasts on. But definitely check out all of our stuff there. Peter, it's always a pleasure coming on here, talking a little ball, talking a little wrestling, and we'll do it again soon.
Absolutely. We will do it again soon. JC Allen of Pewter Report, thanks a lot for your time here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web Live on I Love St. Pete, the Hub, Amped Up Sports, and Bucs Life. All right?
Always. Talk to you soon.
All right, good stuff there. Let's take a quick break, and I promise that I will take your phone calls, as always, and read your comments, but we definitely got to pay some bills here on the Sports Web Live on I Love St. Pete, the Hub, Amped Up Sports, and Bucs Life. Are you an athlete or professional struggling with life or career transition? Life isn't always easy, but hope is always present. Best Hope Counseling will help you move forward. For nearly a decade, licensed marriage and family therapist Larry Bumgartner has helped clients empower change and discover solutions using a solution-focused therapy approach. Conversations will focus on what you desire to change, not just the problems that brought you into counseling. From anger to depression or other emotions, Best Hope Counseling is there for you. Contact Larry personally on his direct line at 727-946-1346. Again, 727-946-1346 for a telehealth appointment in Florida and Minnesota, or in person an appointment in Minnesota. Take time out and begin your game plan to reconnect, rebuild, and restore happiness in your life. BestHopeCounseling.com. All right, welcome back to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake. Again, open phone lines if you want to call up and talk about it, whatever we were talking about tonight, which is a lot about Tampa Bay, Ronde Barber being in the Hall of Fame. Of course, Buccaneer training camp. We know as a fan base that Baker Mayfield is going to be the starter on Friday versus the Steelers, and in the second game versus the Jets, it's going to be Kyle Trask. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. The other number, in case you can't get through, 727-409-7528. Again, 727-409-7528. So let's keep on. Let's go ahead and go out to these comments here. Tristan Gay, excuse me. If Baker Trask is it officially a rebuild? It may be a rebuild. If both of these quarterbacks don't work out, then yeah, it's looking like a rebuild. It's looking like maybe not necessarily a rebuild, but it's looking like you're tanking for a quarterback. You're looking for Caleb Williams or Drake May. But once again, Tristan, I tend to be optimistic. I think Baker has shown in this league that he can get it done. And with the emphasis on the run game, I feel like that's going to be catered to him and this offense going forward. Just my opinion. Steelers have the best quarterback room in the league. We shall see. No, 85 Bears, best of all time, no question. Roger again, yes, start Trask every game. Coach Prime says Bucs rookie already got injured. Bust. Come on, man.
This guy sucks.
Doesn't mean he's a bust. He's been showing up. He hurt his calf. Hopefully he's ready for the regular season. I know who you're talking about, Kalijah Cansey. Good to have you back there, Coach Prime. Coach Prime Rib. Exactly, Coach Prime again. Ronde Barber is not a Hall of Famer. Sorry, you're wrong. He is a Hall of Famer. Absolutely a Hall of Famer. It happened on Saturday. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. He's one of the 23 corners in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, period. And he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because he was a nickel corner and revolutionized the game. And not only covered in zone, did it in as a system corner, but also made tackles. And once again, the longevity. How many games did he play with one team being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? 4 years of calling Baker trash. Now we'll have to root for him. It just ain't right, but sometimes that happens, my friend.
Yeah!
Hopefully he isn't trash. And again, I think it goes back to what JC was talking about, right? It's Alex Smith disease. It's Jason Campbell disease. We always talk about it. Young quarterbacks that don't necessarily have the opportunity to develop. Why? Well, changing of coaches, changes of offensive coordinator, which means you have to learn a new system that doesn't help you. You know, we sat here, we talk about Jameis Winston and the reason why he wasn't successful because you're changing an offensive coordinator every 2 to 3 years, or you're changing a coach. That does not help out a young quarterback's development when it comes down to it. So could you put that out there? Could you also put it out there that maybe Baker hasn't necessarily had the weapons that he has here in Tampa Bay? Certainly. Coaching, offensive coordinator, stability, not there with the Browns. And still able to take the Browns to the playoffs in 2020 and nearly beat the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Where the Bucs beat them in the Super Bowl, in Super Bowl 55. So I'm willing to see what happens. I feel like with the 69 games started, that he's got the leg up here with this quarterback competition. But it's not going to only come down to the training camp practices. It's going to come down to the game time situations. And when the lights turn on, and even though you're not running necessarily the best defense, you're running a vanilla defense, they're going to want to see some of these plays. They're going to want to see some consistency with drives. They're going to want to see some points. You know, the number one priority in preseason is to stay healthy. but you also want to see some progression. And it is a new offense for both quarterbacks. I still think Baker Mayfield has the leg up. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. The other number, in case you can't get through, 727-409-7528. Again, 727-409-7528. It's the Sports Web. 4 days away until the Bucs play the Pittsburgh Steelers on Friday night. You're wondering where I'll be. I'll be here. I'll most likely have a post-game show. We'll see if we have a pregame show or not. I get off at 6:30. Maybe we'll have a pregame show. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll let, the Buccaneer Radio Network do that. And we'll have a postgame afterwards. But I know there's going to be all kinds of reaction. And to tell you the truth, somebody already asked me out on Friday night. You know what I said? It's football season, baby. No matter if it's preseason or not, it's football season. It's football season. I ain't missing you guys. I'm definitely going to be talking to you guys on Friday night. Get ready for it. I hope you're ready. I hope you're ready to talk Tampa Bay Buccaneer football as we finally get a first glimpse of what the 2023 version will look like. Whether it's a couple series. How many series does Baker Mayfield play? Kyle Trask gets in the game. How many series will he play? What about Rashard White? Again, number one priority. Don't get injured. Stay healthy. By all accounts, Mike Evans looks like a beast. Oh, shocker. But certainly looks like he could be in for a big year. Chris Godwin coming off the injury. He could be in for a big year. Russell Gage finally healthy. He could be in for a big year. So you talk about the offensive weapons on the outside. But all eyes will be on that story that we just talked about with Rock and, of course, JC. What's the status of Ryan Jensen? Am I a little bit concerned? Yeah, a little bit concerned at this point. Is he going to be a starter? We'll see. We'll see if he can come back and start. You hope he can, because you know what he brings to that offensive line, and you know how good that offensive line can be when he is healthy. Let's go out to the phone lines. Damn it, Jim from Ohio. Welcome to the Evolution.
Oh, yeah.
What's on your mind tonight, 4 days away from Bucs versus the Steelers' first preseason game, week 1?
I'm ready for it.
I'm sorry?
I said I'm ready for it. You hear me?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a little bit, I don't know what it is, man. Turn up your volume a little bit or get closer to your phone.
All right. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I hear you better now. What are you on, a Bluetooth or something?
Yeah, I got my headphones on.
Okay, all right. We'll just try to speak up so everybody can hear you. So what are your thoughts on this this story today, the developing story of the day, that Kyle Trask is going to be the starter for the second game versus the Jets when they go up there and have those workouts with Aaron Rodgers, who most likely will be in that practice with their workouts, not in the game situation. But Baker Mayfield will be your starter on Friday night versus the Steelers.
Yeah, I think.
Jim, I don't know what's going on, man. You're going to have to call back because I don't know what it is, buddy. Can you call me back?
Yeah, I'll call you back.
Yeah, call me back. I don't know what's going on there. I can't deal with that. Can't deal with that damn phone stuff. I mean, it's the echo and all this other stuff. And I got new equipment, so I'm kind of trying to get used to it. I got new headphones. They're really loud. I'm like, oh my gosh, my voice is really loud sometimes. I didn't realize how loud my voice is, but it is. It's pretty loud. Nice headphones, nice camera here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Open phone lines if you want to call in and talk about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. The other number, in case you can't get through, 727-409-7528. Again, 727-409-7528. Probably one of the best Hall of Fame speeches I've heard from Ronde. Completely agree. Woo! Wasn't expecting that. But it was a breath of fresh air to see him go up there and saying so many words. I'm glad I'm here, and I'm not ordinary, and I couldn't be ordinary. And I was motivated by my brother and motivated by this and that. And again, always go back to it. What is a system corner? He asked the question. I asked the question. What is a system wide receiver? Is Jerry Rice a system wide receiver? Is Joe Montana a system quarterback? Is Tom Brady a system quarterback? Every player is in a system. Joe Montana was in a West Coast offense. Why? Because he couldn't throw the ball deep. That's the reason why you have the West Coast offense. Right? Jerry Rice was perfect. He was the prototypical wide receiver in the West Coast system. Does that take away from his accomplishments? No. Why does it take away from Ronde Barber? You know, the foolishness that I heard, the nonsense that I heard throughout the years. Well, he played with some of the greatest players of all time, and John Lynch and Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp, so that's the reason why he was great. No, he was great because he was great. He also added to that team as a nickel corner, as a great tackler, making plays. I mean, he was nearly cut. He improved on it. He took the challenge. He talked about Mike Tomlin challenging him as a coach when he came aboard. He knew how I felt about Tomlin. The Bucs should have never let Tomlin get out of that building if they had the opportunity. But that's how much Tomlin meant to him. Tomlin presented him with the gold jacket the night before. It was nice to see. But it's that kind of stuff right there. He even shouted out John Gruden. You guys didn't catch it because he didn't say John Gruden. He said, JG. Why did he do that? Well, we all know why he did that in the first place. We know how the NFL feels about John Gruden and that Buccaneer run on Super Bowl 37. Pete Alonso has 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. He's killing it, huh? Local guy. Ronde wasn't a system corner. If anything, I would consider John Lynch a system safety. I mean, I think every player is in a system. So are they system players? Does it make them better? I mean, that's what coaching is all about. Those coaches, Tony Dungy, Monty Kiffin, put those players in a system and put them in position to win. And win a lot. And they could have won multi Super Bowls if they have the offense that matches the defense. And we're not even having the conversation. I'll continue to say it. I feel like that Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense was one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. What do you say? 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. The other number, 727-409-7528. Again, 727-409-7528. Tristan Gay. System isn't a bad word. See Emmitt Smith. Yeah, I mean, is Emmitt Smith a system running back? I mean, a lot of people don't consider him the greatest running back of all time, but he certainly has the numbers. Was he in a Dallas system? I mean, we've always had this conversation, right? These debates. This is what's fun about sports. Sometimes it can be subjective. What if Barry Sanders had Dallas's offensive line? Does he have more yards? You would think so, right? What if Emmitt Smith has the Lions offensive line? Does he have as many yards? Most likely not, but who knows? But those are the kind of fun debates that you would get into. Does that lower the value? I mean, would you say Emmitt Smith had more opportunity? Of course, yeah, sure. He played longer. He didn't retire like Sanders, and he had more around him. Does that take away from him being a Hall of Fame running back? Of course not. It's nonsense. We'll have Ira Kaufman on Wednesday night with the legend himself, Mr. Leo Haggerty. We'll ask him about the Hall of Fame process. I will try to get him to tell me if Simeon Rice is the next Bucs Hall of Famer or who is the next Bucs Hall of Famer. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. Let's go out to Mr. Roger Shue himself, the tribal troll.
Acknowledge me.
What's going on, boss? Using your
call.
second call. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, let's talk about system players and the system fitting the player.
Sure.
Barry Bonds was a system home run hitter.
Barry Bonds was a cheater. I mean, this is enough of that.
Shitter!
I know where you're getting with that, but he's a cheater. Okay, he did something that nobody else had any access to. He's a cheater. He's not the all-time home run king. I don't care what anybody says. Hank Aaron is the all-time home run king.
Okay.
Period.
And who is the greatest running back of all time?
I mean, numbers-wise, it says Emmitt Smith, but I think Barry Sanders is one of the greatest of all time. I think you're going to say Walter Payton is one of the greatest of all time.
The greatest, period, bar none, could still rush for over 1,000 yards in today's league.
Right. I mean, I guess it goes back to this. If Barry Sanders has Dallas's offensive line because he's in the Dallas system, you know, the great wall there of Dallas with Larry Allen and Stepnoski and a lot of those players there. Does Barry Sanders get more yards than Emmitt Smith with Emmitt being behind the Detroit offensive line?
I would tend to say probably yes.
Okay, I think that's fair. But you don't take it away from them. You still say they're Hall of Fame football players. So why do we use that word as system as a bad thing? Why is that a bad thing?
I don't think it was a bad thing. I think
so. Then why was it a bad thing for 6 years? Why did it take 6 years for the Hall of Fame to realize that Ronde Barber is not just a system freaking corner?
Okay, whoa. First of all, the Hall of Fame is a sack of shit. Excuse my language.
Wow. Okay.
Why is Steve Mongo McMichael, who's on his deathbed with Lou Gehrig's disease, not in the Hall of Fame yet?
I don't know. That's a sad story, and I can't believe the way he looks. God bless him and his family.
He's on the ballot for 2024. He's in the hospital in ICU battling sepsis and pneumonia.
I remember that guy when he not only was playing football for the Chicago Bears, but also was an announcer for WCW Nitro when it first began.
Remember the Horsemen?
Yeah, I know. Sad shame.
Yeah,
very sad.
About 130 pounds and can no longer speak.
Sad story.
Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, is a horrible thing, man.
Yeah, well, maybe he gets in. Maybe
Mongo hangs around long enough to be able to see himself get in.
I mean, do you think he's a Hall of Fame football player? Why
Absolutely.
do you think he's in the Hall of Fame?
Look at his numbers.
Okay, how do his numbers compare to the players during that era?
He's better than everybody.
Okay, are you just saying that because you're biased, or is that legitimate?
Look it up right now.
Okay, I'm going to look at the numbers. I'm going to do my research and come back to you on Wednesday night. I definitely think he was a cog in that defensive line for the Bears during the 80s. So
absolutely.
All right.
And if we had a decent offense, we would have won multiple Super Bowls with that defense.
Well, I'm saying the same thing about the Bucs, and again, here's what I go back to when you say
same situation,
right? But here's the difference: the majority of the NFL teams wanted to play the Tampa 2. There wasn't a lot of teams that wanted to play the 4-6, whether they could, whether they had the talent or not. A lot of teams figured it out eventually. They figured it out in a couple of years. They couldn't figure out the Tampa 2 there for amount of time. It was amount of time there, about 10 years, where finally NFL offenses figured it out.
Yeah,
that is my point.
Now nobody plays it.
Well, yeah, nobody plays it now because they figured it out. But back then,
it was innovative. It was
yes. Thank you. You're making my point. There you go. What else, Roger?
That's really about it, man. It's been a great show, and definitely do a post game Friday night. That'll be fun.
I definitely think we'll do a post game show.
We'll celebrate the success of Kyle Trask, and
well, hopefully for your sake. If he doesn't pan out like you think he's going to, I want you to have that same energy when you call this show. Okay?
I think Mayfield will play probably 3 snaps.
3 snaps.
Maybe,
you think he's going to be 3 snaps? 3 snaps. 3 series?
No, that's not what I meant. 3 series.
3 series. Okay.
Then Kyle Trask will play the remainder of the game.
All right, my friend. Good stuff as always. Let me give you the Ric Flair. Appreciate you as always.
Real quick, before you hang up on me,
yes,
I want to shout out Dylan, who's in the chat.
Okay.
He's new here on YouTube.
Okay.
He said he's been watching for years on Facebook, but now he's in the chat. So welcome, Dylan. Please come back, bro.
Yeah, welcome, Dylan. Appreciate you. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate the call. Open phone lines if you want to get in and talk about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What are your expectations? What are the position battles that you're looking forward to? Hall of Fame. Why did it take so long for Ronde Barber to get in? What is a system player? 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. The other number, in case you can't get through, 727-409-7528. Again, 409-7528. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. The Rays could have had him. He's starting to heat up. Absolutely. Rays off tonight playing St. Louis at the Trop. 3 straight series with 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Meatloaf right now, but the Rays, their big-time concern has to be their pitching staff. Shane McClanahan going to see a specialist. Forearm tightness, that necessarily may not be good. Hopefully it is, because the Rays could ill afford to lose another pitcher on this rotation. And then on top of that, Tyler Glass now had back spasms. I joined the club. I had back spasms all last night, all weekend. But hopefully that's not serious, because we know that Glass now in his injury history, this team can't afford to have any more injuries. Erasmo Ramirez did a bang-up job yesterday going 3 innings. But you can't depend on that. I don't know how many more injuries the Rays can sustain before you say, well, they're probably not a World Series contender now because of all the injuries. So, again, knock on wood. Hopefully McClanahan is all right. It doesn't look good right now. And then, of course, Glass now. All right, let's go out to Roger Shue. Mongo for Hall of Fame 2024. Roger again. Cubs lead 7-2, top of the 7th. Tristan, that was cold-blooded. It was. That was a story from Philadelphia from Rock. It was. But that sounds like what Eagle fans would do. That sounds like what, the organization would do to get any home field advantage. And that's why a lot of fans and a lot of people around the league just don't like Philadelphia overall. This is a Bucs channel, not a Cubs channel. You are on warning. Coach, it is a sports channel, so enough with you.
This guy sucks.
No, Roger. Cubs down 7-2. Prime Rib, watch it. Roger says Chris just saw it on Twitter. It's a weather delay. Oh, I did read it wrong. Well, there you go. Reading is fundamental. It's a sports channel, Prime. It absolutely is. John Mamula. My man Rock Riley with this sweet-looking background. Need to look into his designer. That was tremendous. Thanks a lot, Rock, once again for your time. John, thanks a lot for tuning in. Great stuff there you're doing over at 95.3, 620 WDAE. Great stuff, my friend. I know you're getting excited about it because of all the Bucs coverage that you guys are carrying every day. And, of course, my buddy over there, Jay Retcher, J and Z, which can be heard noon to 3, of course, followed by Tom Krasnicki, and, of course, my former instructor at CSB, Ronnie Night Train Lane, a legend in himself, a legend in the radio business. Tremendous. What's overlooked is that the core was all drafted. Exactly. The core was all drafted. How sweet is that, right? I mean, besides Simeon Rice, who's a free agency pickup, which he needed at the time. Warren Sapp is drafted. Derek Brooks, of course, is drafted from the 95. Then you got John Lynch, who comes first. And then Ronde Barber. Let's see here. Absolutely good stuff. Tristan, appreciate you.
Yeah!
I hate Alonso. Let's go out to Coach Prime. Peter, do you think NASCAR will forget Bubba Wallace and let him race in the Coca-Cola 900? Really don't know what you're talking about, man, but I appreciate the comment. We don't talk NASCAR. This is a sports channel. We really don't talk NASCAR on this channel that much. NASCAR is one of Peter's favorite sports. Obviously, you guys don't know him that well. I don't think you really know me that well at all, because I never talk about NASCAR. Brady and Dunn, Ring of Honor. Completely agree. Bobby, appreciate it. Roger says, I've known him for 20 years. I know him better than anyone. Christopher Cole, Trask will have a tougher test against the Jets defense. Completely agree with that.
Oh, yeah!
Good stuff, Christopher. Let's go out to Bobby Raines. Brady, Dunn, and Wilder in the Ring of Honor. Absolutely agree. Woo! Let's go out to Coach Prime here. Know him since high school. Go Rams. I don't know if you know me since high school. I think you saw my page on Facebook. So once again, I think you're spewing nonsense.
Shut up!
Roger says, Prime, don't start your crap. I'll ban you. Enough, boys. Stop banning each other. It's fine. Whatever. The race is tightened, but we got to see the games unless Baker bombs those games or even the practices with the Jets. I think he's going to get the nod and will be his job to lose. Completely agree.
Yeah!
Once again, Dylan, thanks a lot for tuning in here on the YouTube channel. YouTube chats are open. Facebook stars are open. So give to the cause if you love what we do here. Once again, Wednesday night we'll have the sage of Tampa Bay, Mr. Ira Kaufman, along with Leo Haggerty, the legend himself, former Coach Scout and now media member. School sucks. Maybe you should have went to school more. How would you know, Prime? You never went to school. Coach Prime says, I better get my pillow and blanket ready. JC is on, and this is what you get for that. JC did a great job with giving all the information out. We always love him on this program, not only giving us Bucs training camp knowledge, but also WWE knowledge. You got to love that. We talk wrestling, talk AEW, and, of course, Turnbuckle Talk on Wednesday night at 10:20 as we recap with former XPW announcer Mark Mancini and, of course, the bodyguard of the Berg, Ralph Williams, WWE SummerSlam, AEW, what is going on in professional wrestling. And I got to tell you, keep on watching. We're working on getting some guests on, some former professional wrestlers, some announcers. Just keep on watching the evolution of sports talk television. JC is a sports web legend. Completely agree he is, because he started out here on the sports web. Let's go! Thank you, Dylan. Appreciate you. Alkek is a real Tampa legend, okay? Thank you, Coach. Hey, what's the word on 58's Marquise Watts? Haven't heard a lot about him. I thought you were talking about, I'm sorry, Shaq Barrett. So I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard a lot about him. I guess we'll see. I always thought 58 was Shaq Barrett. I'm getting confused because he changed his number to 7. Yes, Dylan, he is. Are you new viewer on YouTube? Don't remember seeing you before. What in the world? Linebacker Marquise Watts, new on YouTube, but I've been watching for Facebook for a few years. Dylan, not every day, but I try. Roger says, welcome, man. Glad you're here. Coach Prime is a jersey off troll. Don't pay attention to him. Roger says, jerk off troll. Okay. Jay says, I'm late. My bad. It's okay, Jay. Don't worry about Ryan Jensen. Dylan says, wouldn't be YouTube without the trolls. Jay again. I told you Devin was just upset. He's going to play. It's all good. We'll get back to those comments. We'll play those comments again in case you missed them on the first hour there of what he had to say. And I want to hear from what you fans think from those comments. Do you feel better about them? Basically, in so many words, humbling himself and saying that, he's a little bit not greedy, but a little bit selfish, right? Admitting to that he wanted the deal done when he wanted the deal done, that he sat down with Jason Light and Todd Bowles and talked it out. And they got a plan for him. And he wants to be a part of this program like a Levante David. I get it. He wants to get paid. And I think he will if he proves himself, if he's consistent enough, when he gives that effort, when he does those things that we expect him to do, that the Bucs expect him to do, right? If he improves on that, then they have an opportunity. He has an opportunity to get a long-term contract. It's just not going to happen this year. I don't see it. Let's see here. So true. He's had several names over the years. Coach Prime, Dylan, don't listen to Roger. He's a bully who likes to pick on me and steal my lunch money at work. Oh, God.
Shitter!
What's going on, Jeremiah? Shadow. Everyone, Shadow is here. Welcome, Shadow.
Flawless victory.
Let's go out to Tristan here. I can't remember the last time we had so many questions at key positions: running back, pass rush, run stopping, OL. I mean, there's questions on this team. I think there's questions about every team, but they still have lots of talent on it. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. The offensive line is a big-time question mark. In fact, we talked to Tyler Jones of Chat Sports, and he said, what? Quarterback situation is really not worrying me. What's worrying me is the offensive line. Is Ryan Jensen going to be a part of this offensive line going forward? Who's going to be your right guard? What about the right side? Is Tristan Wirfs going to be able to transition to the left side? I think he will. Who's your left guard? Is it Matt Filer? Lots of questions there. I think it's addition by subtraction. But again, you bring up some great points. Running back situation, Rashard White. Is he your number one back? Is there somebody else that's going to challenge him? Keyshawn Vaughn, Sean Tucker, Chase Edmonds. I think it's Rashard White's job to lose, right? He's going to get every opportunity because the emphasis from, reading between the lines and listening to the press conferences is that there is going to be some type of emphasis on the run game. And you go back to Seattle in their heyday with the Russell Wilson. What made Russell Wilson better was having that balance to the offense, to have that run game. I think that's what's going to make this team better. You even heard from Tristan Wirfs in the presser the other day. It's not like, we're going back 60 times. That takes a toll on the offensive line too. It's nice to have that balance. It's nice to put that idea in an offensive line's head that we're going to go and we're going to run the ball. We're going to pound your face in, right? And I think that's where the Bucs are going to be. And that's going to open up things on the outside with Evans, Godwin, and Gage. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. So good stuff there, Tristan. Appreciate the comment as always.
Ooh, yeah.
Tristan Wirfs is already thinking about losing. Dylan says, JC, what are your thoughts on Ryan Jensen? He talked about that already. Dylan says, Tom Krasnicki and Ronnie Lane were saying he hasn't done anything. He has not, because they're not taking a chance. They don't want to have another injury. Who knows what the doctors are saying at this point? I don't know. You definitely don't want to lose him for an extended period of time like you had last year, right? Because we know, Bucs fans out there, how important he was. His attitude, his makeup. It's important to this offensive line to get him back in the fold. Nothing against Hansey or Leverett, anybody else that starts. I feel better about this offensive line when Ryan Jensen is starting at that center position. Coach Prime says Jensen's a vet, doesn't have to train. He could stay home, eat potato chips on the couch. I don't think he has the same training regimen as you do, my friend. It's a good push for Jay. Absolutely agree with that. It is a good push. I thought the match was a little bit too slow there, Tristan. I don't know what you think. You can call in. We can definitely talk about that on Wednesday night. We can talk about it tonight. Thought the match was a little slow. They did have some great spots, but I was surprised that Jimmy did turn on Jay for the outcome. Sounds like your athletic career. Christopher Cole says, I tried to watch SummerSlam, but the match with Ronda Rousey turned me off. I agree. It turned me off too. I didn't think it was a good match at all. In fact, I thought it was a terrible match. You should have watched the Logan Paul Ricochet match. Lavonte David, Mike Evans are vets, but they still are out there. Given the injury last year, what we learned about it is a valid concern. I think you're talking about, of course, Ryan Jensen. So I get that. But Mike Evans seems like he's healthy. Lavonte David's definitely healthy. And everything we've heard from camp, Mike Evans has been dominating. Is that a good thing? I think it's a good thing. Is that, going back to your defense, also your defense has played somewhat well because you have all those interceptions and turnovers. It's not just the quarterback. Tried to shout out Dylan, but Pete cut me off. I did not cut you off. Baker Winston, nonsense. Stop with that.
This guy sucks.
Where's Harry? I wanted to ask him what he thought about the White Sox culture issues. They have all kinds of culture issues. Roger Shue says Sonya Deville out indefinitely with a torn ACL. Man, that stinks. Sorry to hear that. Drew, Peter, I live in Minnesota, would love to do a behind the enemy lines talk with you for week 1 soon. Let's do it, Drew. Absolutely behind enemy lines. Of course, the Bucs opening up against, Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, and that very questionable defense of the Minnesota Vikings. They won a lot of close games last year, Drew. I want to know if they can do it again. So we'll definitely work on that.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's go out to Roger Shue here. Probably 9 to 12 months. 2 giant goop balls. Next Bucs Hall of Fame is Brady. What people normally get larger in their late 30s, including their skull. Laugh out loud. I know you're talking about Bonds there. Barry is the best ever. Okay, come on now. Barry, the best ever. I'm not going down that road. I'm not doing it. Emmett would have been ruined by the Lions. Barry had the moves to overcome bad blocking. Very good. Christopher Cole, Chiefs didn't figure out in Super Bowl 55. Jeremiah, I've tried both numbers and can't get through. Well, I don't know how you can't get through here, Shadow. Go ahead and call again. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. The other number, in case you can't get through, 727-409-0969. 7528. Again, 727-409-7528. Two giant goofballs. There are plenty of reasons to not like Philly. Absolutely agree with you on that. Trivia question. What pitcher started the first game for the Marlins organization? Hint, it was a minor league game and a guy in the Hall of Fame. That would be Mr. John Lynch. Nice try. Is Derek Brooks in the NFL Hall of Fame yet? Yes, he is. Damn it, Jim. Thank you very much for calling.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go on to Jim again. Sorry, Peter, I'm at work until 11. That's okay, my friend. Priorities. At least you're watching. At least you're trying to call in. But work is work. Get to work, my friend. Don't work too hard. We'll see you on Wednesday night if you can call back. I'm missing the Hall of Fame speeches in Canton, Ohio. You already missed those, but you can always go on YouTube and watch those again. I have to go to the next Buccaneer that gets in. I wanted to go this year. Agree with you. And damn straight. Thank you very much, my friend. Like and subscribe to the Sports Web on YouTube. Like I Love St. Pete, The Hub, Amped Up Sports, and, of course, Bucs Life. We'll be back on Wednesday night. Thanks a lot to all the guests tonight. Mr. Rock Riley, the podcast, The Rock stops here. And, of course, JC Allen of Pewter Report. Once again, Wednesday night, we'll have Ira Kaufman on talking about the Hall of Fame and, of course, Leo Haggerty. And then Turnbuckle Talk, Larry Bumgarner of Best Hope Counseling. He's watching Raw tonight. We'll be talking wrestling, football, and only 4 days away from Bucs versus the Steelers. I know it's preseason, but I'm still excited. 3 things. You know them. You love them. You got to have them. Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake, your Rolex reporter. What time is it? It's my time. And for fans of the Sports Web and Tampa Bay sports fans out there, it's your time. See you on Wednesday night on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. Are you an athlete or a professional struggling with life or career transition? Life isn't always easy, but hope is always present. Best Hope Counseling will help you move forward. For nearly a decade, licensed marriage and family therapist Larry Bumgarner has helped clients empower change and discover solutions using a solution-focused therapy approach. Conversations will focus on what you desire to change, not just the problems that brought you into counseling. From anger to depression or other emotions, Best Hope Counseling is there for you. Contact Larry personally on his direct line at 727-946-1346. Again, 727-946-1346 for a telehealth appointment in Florida and Minnesota, or in person an appointment in Minnesota. Take time out and begin your game plan to reconnect, rebuild, and restore happiness in your life. BestHopeCounseling.com.